The following program is a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market updates and trading strategies. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block. With your host, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com and co-hosts Mike Tusaw from KnowYourOptionsInc.com and Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by Options Express. Don't spend time worrying about your broker. At Options Express, security, stability, and account protection are the most important responsibilities to our customers. Secure account access, enhanced financial protection, entrusted with over $7 billion in customer assets, established financial stability. Options Express lets you trade with confidence. Stocks, options, and futures, all in one account. Trade with a specialist. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio to open your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
All right, and that rockin' tune means it's time once again for the Option Block, your bi-weekly source for all things options related. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as the Old Options Insider Radio Network, and I'm excited because we're going to have a fun show for you today here, kicking off the old week in Option Block style, and I am joined on the old all-star panel by our once-a-week special guest, the man holding down the Options Express hot seat, whose name starts with the letter G, none other than Mr. John Grigas from OX. Mr. G, welcome back to the show, sir.
So good to be back on the Option Block. I got a chance to listen to the podcast over the weekend through my Stitcher app. As I was driving in the car. It's a home improvement source, what men do every weekend. But it was nice to hear Tim on the old show. I hope he was able to give you an update on the sales team that we just started here at Options Express. It's nice to have a dedicated team drawn from people within Options Express. Got Kevin Flynn, the old manager of the trade desk, running that group over there too. So good to hear Tim's voice on the podcast, and hopefully he was able to kind of put out what that sales team is doing, and the accounts that they're supposed to be opening in the service they're providing to the potential clients from Schwab. Yeah,
it was good to hear Tim on the old show again. It has been quite a while. And also, you're right, it is interesting to take that approach to the new customer development, because I know from talking to you guys for the long time we've been doing this show now about how people like to call up and talk to you guys on the trading desk and ask questions and kind of get your feedback on stuff and kind of generally do a little bit of hand-holding, and there's just not that much time for that on a busy day. But you hate to turn those people away because they have legitimate needs and legitimate questions. So if you have a place where you could kind of send them now with guys from the trading desk and other guys who have a little bit more, let's say, I don't want to say leisure time, but a little bit more ability to devote some time and resources to them, that's just a great thing, I think, for that newcomer.
Yeah, Tim and his group definitely have the time. I mean, we'll get calls, and new clients really want to understand this, but they'll call it 2:45 last Friday or 8:30 this morning, which are usually our two busiest days of the month, and that period, the open and the close on Friday and Monday specifically are busiest, and they'll want to go through virtual trade strategy and see what's best for them, what tools they can utilize the website that'll help their trading style. And it's nice to have that resource there to say, hey, let me get you over to these guys, and they'll spend an hour with you on the phone. We're probably going to take it a step further down the road and do a more deep dive broker consultations with new clients to kind of really hone in on what they want to utilize on the website. We're not quite there yet. We want to get it right, and kind of taking our time, but that'll be the next step after the sales team has open an account, get funded. They'll set up with a broker consultation with one of the guys on the desk and really spend some time on the customer, trying to do that high touch point here. It's a different thing at Options Express, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. All right, thank you for that, John. And listeners, you may have a little bit of a congestion on the old Wi-Fi network over at OXHQ. So if John drops in and out every now and then, he's not trying to duck us. Don't worry. It's just a lot of activity going on right after the close there at OX, and they're sucking down the Wi-Fi juice away from you, John. You need to have a dedicated slice of the Wi-Fi spectrum just for you in the show. And,
I did. I asked for my own server for the podcast. I'm not sure what the holdup is on that.
What the holdup is? You're the big cheese over there. I'm surprised they're not jumping through hoops to get you that stuff. All right,
it's coming down the road.
Coming down. And with the requisitions to OX tech support in place, we're going to dive right into the trading block.
The trading block.
All right, and listeners, welcome to the Trading Block, and we are also joined here, better late than never, by one Mr. Mark Sebastian from optionpit.com. It's been a while since he's been on the show.
My triumphant return.
Your triumphant return. I think it's been since the live extravaganza that you've been on the show.
I know. Yep.
So yeah,
I agree.
We were just talking about what a stellar day it is.
Oh man,
all the indices unched literally on the day.
I know, crazy. Yeah, I mean, the last 10 days, the realized volatility of the market has been essentially 3.5%. So when you consider a VIX of 14.5, you got to say, well, relative to 3.5%, that's a huge premium, and that's a pretty, it's nothing to joke around about. So I mean, I as cheap as the VIX allegedly is, it's actually overpriced. So think about that.
We were joking about that a little bit on the Volatility Views program earlier today, and about just how we're getting into that range where you're
right.
Those
guys wanted to talk realized volatility?
You're right. There is this discrepancy between realized and implied, and yet it's getting into that uncomfortable range where you really kind of have to start checking yourself when you want to chase that discrepancy, because you're selling into some uncomfortable levels here across the board from a vol perspective.
Yeah, well, but there are some ways to play it. If you don't want to be short actual, you can get long gamma and short vol. One interesting trade might be, short VIX futures and long an SPX straddle, something like that, where you're, actually selling implied volatility, but, actually going long realized. That might be an interesting way to trade it.
We were talking too about how the people who are still not exactly reticent to blast away at these vol levels are starting to hedge their bets with some upside call kickers and some upside verticals and things like VIX too. We're starting to see those crazy upside flyers that we see popping up whenever people are starting to prep for a potential massive explosion or just an explosion to the upside in VIX in general. Some of them are pretty crazy. See people trading the 50 handle in September and stuff in VIX. But there are some more, let's say, rational upside kickers being built in, so people, if they are worried that, because they know VIX does tend to overperform in those dramatic scenarios, and so they're hedging themselves in that way as well, having that little call kicker out there. John, what have you been seeing over there on the old trading desk? A lot of people still coming in to blast away at vol even in these levels, or are they starting to keep their powder dry a little bit?
No, I mean, everyone on the calls that we're getting is thinking that once everybody returns from the summer break, once the kids are back in school, this sell-off, the doom is going to start. But, if you look at the volume, it's been pretty light, but we continue to go higher. And even like Mark was saying, the vol's supposedly so cheap down here, but, it looks like it continue to fall. And I think people are just kind of sitting on the sidelines, just continuing to wait for a confirmation that vol's going to step up. And I don't know, was it up 0.57 today on a down?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
And it was up, I think, even higher than that, like a half hour before the close, too. So
yeah, but that's partially weekend effect, so you can't quite look at that. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it was pretty. It's pretty ridiculous.
On an unch day.
Yeah.
Speaking of ridiculous, we hit yet a new milestone for the good old fruit company Apple. now the most valuable company on the planet. I love throwing it out there because I love just the groans that it incites from a lot of myself included. We just seen the headlines everywhere today. Oh, Apple, the most valuable thing ever in the history of time.
I think people that buy here are gonna be losers in 3 years, or less. So I just don't think their product cycle can keep this up. So hey, enjoy it while it lasts, folks. Enjoy it while it lasts.
Too bad we don't have the degenerate Apple bull, Uncle Mike Tucson, here to take the counterpoint to that argument.
Higher. I'm gonna do a bull call spread.
Bull call spread.
Should leg into a collar, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, that's his other trick, because he's been starting to be a little bit more hesitant about loving up the Apple these days. So if even he's starting to, I think, underweight a little bit and hedge a little more to the downside. So even the degenerate Apple bulls are starting to say perhaps they're in a little bit of vacillation territory at the very least, where we're going to hit these levels and then retrace, then hit some more high levels and then retrace. And then, particularly with these new phones and these new tablets coming out and just starting to nick at their heels a little bit, it's going to be interesting to see. Of course, you have the new Nexus 7, John. That's right. That's supposedly the new $200 great alternative to an iPad. You like that thing?
Yeah, I was using it last night. I literally took a sledgehammer to my Blu-ray player on Saturday, so I was on the tablet researching new Blu-ray players. It is nice. I mean, my kids have commandeered the laptop and just sit there and play games all day, so I needed something else that was a little more functional for me to sit and read. It's really nice. But I'm already having buyer's remorse because I'm hearing that they're going to have a 10-inch tablet that's going to cost $300 in like September or October. So, I'll probably be picking one of those up too.
You buried the lead in there. Why did you take a literal sledgehammer to your Blu-ray drive this weekend?
I bought a Vizio Blu-ray player less than 2 years ago, and the thing is, we have Vizio TVs all through here, so they've been decent. They haven't stopped working, but I don't know what it is. This Blu-ray player, the thing would read DVDs, it would play the internet apps, but it would not play Blu-rays, and that was like the reason I got it. I took the thing all apart, took all the screws out, went to lift the top off, and they must have filed it with a razor or something because it slit through like 3 of my fingers, and then I couldn't still get it to work, so I took a hammer and just smashed it.
He said, I'll show you cutting my hand Blu-ray player.
Yeah, right. So,
meet my friend, Mr. Sledge.
And with what they cost and what I was looking them up on Amazon, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna bother. So it's in the bottom of the bin right now.
Well, those things.
Did you? I was kind of hoping you were gonna recreate like a little Office Space action with the sledgehammer and the bat with.
Michael Bolton and the copier.
Printer. Yeah. It did feel good though. I got to tell you, man. I was done and made myself a drink, and I said, "Hey, I feel better.
I've done a good day's work today."
I wrecked something.
Every man should wreck at least one thing a day just to feel his oats. But speaking of wreckage, that corn crop not exactly lighting up the old tape. John, any more feedback from the just dystopia that is corn these days?
No, I was looking for some new stuff on it. It's been pretty quiet. I think corn was up about 17 cents today. I mean, it's looking like it wants to test that high from last Friday not a week ago, last Friday, with the USDA crop progress. I mean, it's I watched it real time. It spiked up there stayed up there for maybe a minute to 3 minutes, and then came down and made new lows intraday. It found a bottom a couple days later, and then today with a good push and closing near its highs today, it looks like it's going to try at least test those levels. Sometimes before you can go down, you need to make sure that resistance is actually true resistance. So I got to imagine we'll be up there in the next 2 to 3 days.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. G. And I think that's going to do it for the whole trading block on this 0.0% move day. Not too much we can really dig into.
Not the most exciting day.
No, not the most compelling. You picked a good day to jump back on, Mr. Sebastian. But with that, we're going to dive right into the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, and that funky tune means it's time once again for the old odd block. And I should say right up front that we've really just completely restructured how we do a lot of our unusual activity over at theoptionsinsider.com. So these are just some of the highlights that I pulled from our site today. But if you'd like a lot more on the unusual activity end of the spectrum, then by all means surf on over to theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the unusual activity tab, and you'll find quite a bit up there for your edification. And now we're going to kick things off here with good old Fidelity National Information Services, ticker symbol FIS. This is a global provider of banking and payments technologies. They closed today at 32 even, up about nearly 3% on the day. This is a name that does a whopping 91 contracts a day, and today they were blowing that number out of the water with about 135 times their typical put volume of 3,000. They did over 3,000 contracts today, pretty much all of that in one massive put trade. We saw the SEP 31 puts lighting up the tape today, about 3,000 being purchased, including a massive block of 2,900 or so, lifting offers for about 65 cents. There's no real OI on these strikes. This is all opening paper, and looks like a pretty sizable hedge of an underlying position here as opposed to an outright spec. This name has been vacillating quite a bit of late, and they've had quite a run down from 35 now down to low 30s, even 31, and then they gap back up to 32 just over the past couple of sessions. This guy obviously looking to lock in that 31 level here with some relatively sizable activity here for FIS. And looking at some of the other strikes, and there's really no open interest even open on any of these other strikes. A one lot here, there's 100 lot open, a few here, but other than that, it really is nothing. So this is sizable paper here for this name, and a sizable name that we'll have to watch here. FIS, a newcomer to the odd block here, but an interesting one to watch, and we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, we're going to roll in the odd block here into the old VIX. We're just talking about it earlier in the show here on the old trading block, and there was some activity on both ends of the spectrum, what we were talking about today. A lot of people closing out some sizable winners, it seems like, here in the VIX option, starting off on the call side, AUG 16s and 17s, lighting up the tape against a whopping ton of open interest. So the bulk of these are pretty much probably closing sales. We saw about AUG 16s lighting up the tape about 1,000 times for sales of 25 cents. Total of 3,000 on the day against a whopping 26,000 open. Same thing with the AUG 17s, nearly 10,000 contracts going up today with massive blocks, 3,000, 1,000, 1,000, all the way throughout the day at a variety of prices. A lot of them towards the end of the day on 10 cents. Saw some interesting in-the-money put action going up today as well. On the put side, AUG 20s and AUG 18 puts, both very active. AUG 20 puts sold about 5,000 times for nearly $5, deep in the money put there. We also saw the AUG 18 puts, 6,000 contracts going up for about $280, followed by another 4,000, total of 10,000, all that same price on the day with an open interest of 98,000. Looks like there's some closing going on there as well. And we talked before about prepping for the upside, rolling on out to October. We see the AUG 15 calls being lifting offers, I should say, over 2,000 times for around $590 or so in the price as well. 1,000 of these AUG 22s also lifting offers for about $240. So as people are closing out existing open interest that has moved their way as VIX has run down, we're starting to see some people also turning around and repositioning for an additional pop. October, we talked about it many times on this show in the past. October, good old Rocktober. A lot of people love to position for VIX pops during that month, and we're starting to see some of that going on as well. What are you guys positioning for these days at the option pit in terms of VIX? Are you doing what you said, the VIX future? I'm sorry, the S&P futures versus the straddle? Is that what
VIX
you're playing
futures,
right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we're doing with the VIX. I think one important thing, you can't just trade VIX and without understanding that you're trading an 18 handle in September. So we've been kind of short the roll and long, realized if you really want to go long VIX, you're better off doing it in the SPX than in VIX itself. We've been big proponents of short the contango roll and long realized volatility via actual options. Things like Apple and Google, the volatility has been dirt cheap in those, and those have been, Google, not for a couple days, but Google moved $20 over 2 days. Apple just moved $15 today. There's a real opportunity in these individual names to find some value there if you're smart. So that's kind of what we've been pointing at.
Good stuff to point to. And speaking of pointing to, let's point on over to the old Express Block.
The Express Block, brought to you by Options Express. Options Express lets you trade where and when you want for every level of trading. From advanced charting, free daily trading ideas, and free educational resources, Options Express is the online broker for all traders. Best of all, Options Express allows you to trade stocks, options, and futures all in a single account on powerful yet easy-to-use trading platforms, including mobile devices. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio for your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
All right, it's that time yet again where I turn the reins over to the boys at OX. Mr. Grigas, aside from your corn fixation, what else is going on in the land of OX?
Well, volume's been pretty light these last 2 months. We actually see that every late summer. People try to wrap up their vacations. But we are seeing a lot of people still talking about Facebook. I don't know if it's that 20 handle and it dropped below that recently that it gets people all fired up. And but I had the pleasure of driving into work this morning with my wife. You can imagine how fun that was. And, I like to just either listen to nothing or, throw some financial news stories on. And she's like, throw Eric and Kathy on. So at about 6 in the morning, unfortunately, that's what I'm listening to. And they surprised me with doing a news story on Facebook. And they were talking around Zuckerberg having to step down. And, I've heard small murmurs of that here and there over the past few weeks. But I still think it's too early. I don't think it's something you're going to see. But it's funny to hear, financial news talked on a Chicago morning radio show. And it reminded me of, having me think back to May 18th and the days leading up to the IPO of Facebook and how the people that were jumping into Facebook probably listened to Eric and Kathy. So it made a lot of sense to me this morning when I was listening to them. But we did see a lot of people come into Facebook on Friday afternoon when it dropped below $20. And these were traders. These were regular callers that we get, and they have large portfolios, and they were just allocating some of it to Facebook. And then it was interesting to see that we saw this morning, or late morning, a upgrade from, I believe it was a Capstone, came across the wire that they went through and said upgrades Facebook on more favorable risk reward, sets a price target at $26. So, some people had that, got into it. I think Facebook was up, $1 today? Maybe closed up. Let me just double check.
It eased up on the day. It almost $1, yeah. But yeah, so 20 even essentially.
Yeah, just got its neck above water at 2001. But I mean, that's like the biggest update move we've seen in a while in Facebook. I was hoping that we would have some type of, sector move.
Some Groupon love.
Some Groupon love. When I saw that, and then I popped over to Facebook, and I was like, oh, hey, Groupon's got to be, in the green a little bit. But unfortunately, I think that was down about, 20 cents. Let me just pull that up.
Yeah, the word is out. The word is out that you're long, buddy, and that's it. That's all it takes.
Groupon, yeah, I mean, that 5 straddle is a sale and a half in Groupon, I think, at $1.
But I think I emailed the group last week that is, this is when Groupon was at about $5.90. I said as soon as that hits $5.01, I'm buying it, and it plowed through my $5.01 limit order and just kept on going south. So
it laughed.
Well, you know what you should do is hedge it by selling puts.
I'm disappointed I didn't sell puts.
There we go. That's not a recipe for any disaster.
No, that's brilliant. No, but to be honest, the borrow rate is so high in Groupon that you should consider dumping your stock, and if you really like the stock, doing the conversion. Or doing the reversal, excuse me. So sell the put and buy the call. You're actually going to be able to get the stock at a nice discount. So
what's the credit on that right now?
Well, I'm going to pull it up right now, my friend.
Because I got that going on in the VXX, and that one just went in my face
Don't
today, too.
get out of your VXX right now, you idiot.
Oh, I love when Mark's on the show.
That thing
Wait, don't, tell it to me straight. You're saying you don't like that trade or what?
It's going to 0.
It's like 35. Yeah, so 35 cents essentially. Yeah.
VXX is going to 0.
Well, not VXX. I'm looking at the Groupon SEP.
Oh yeah, no, the Groupon. The Groupon. If we looked at, let's say, October. Well, let's take a look at January 2013. You can, if you sell put and buy call, you'll pay a dime under the current price. And that would be, and you could probably do it for even. So you could probably get it for $4.50 instead of $4.65. So it's 15 cents. That's not a bad little play. If you're willing to go out to 2014, you'll do even better.
Yeah.
So those are some plays that maybe make some sense. I'd absolutely be looking to do the reversal, or heck, don't do the reversal. Do the risk reversal, and you could sell like the 45 put. You could probably sell, let's see, the OC 4.5 put, say, I bet you get 70 cents for that, and then pay 50. 20-cent credit on the 4.5, 5 risk reversal. That's not a bad trade.
Not at all.
No, that would probably be the route I would be trading.
And we pulled our margin on the stock about a month ago anyway, so it's not like I'm getting any benefit off
that's why I haven't really even been touching the stock, because I don't touch stock to begin with, but I've been rolling my put spreads down as this lovely dance has continued to the downside. But yeah, you're right. I've been looking at, I haven't jumped into the upside risk reversal part of it yet. I still have just the short puts and short put spreads. But when that becomes apparent that it looks like a good do, I'll probably leg into that credit as well, because I can't. Yeah, the benefits to touching the stock here versus trading the options, to me, it just leans heavily. But I know you were locked in once you made that promise to buy it at 501, John. You had no other. You couldn't save face and not buy it, sir.
That's why I did it. I mean, you got to put up or shut up.
What better trading motivator is there than shame? Always leads to profit.
So, what do you guys think about the stock? Technically, from a charting perspective.
Technically, I don't think it matters. I think they're going to be kicking themselves in the rear when they sell their company for $1 billion when Google would have paid them $7 billion.
Yeah, I think the company at this level is still about $3.5 billion, right?
Which is ridiculous.
You just get long, put that reversal on, and then just wait for the next short squeeze to squeeze it up a bit, and then get out, and you're done. They squeezed it up to 8 last time. Of course, a lot of them got out then. I have to imagine with this drubbing that it's been taking, a lot of them have gotten back in. So you can ride some of that short interest back up.
You got to think that they'd start to ease up actually on that trade, right?
You'd think, but someone's pummeling this thing into oblivion. Some of those shorts who got out when they bought it up back at 8 have to be getting back in, you'd think.
And Andreessen sold out a chunk yesterday, and I think some today.
Good old Andreessen riding the train there. That guy had one big hit with Mosaic back in the day, and has been riding that ever since.
Yep.
Nice.
There's a nice gap there at 635, so that's kind of what I'm begging for right now. Looking
to fill a gap.
635. That's your level. That's where you're out. That's where the kids' college fund is locking out right there.
Yeah, Jack's still in that Bank of America trade. I don't know what he was thinking.
Oh God.
Your kids you got to really sit down with your kids and say,
kids are crappy traders.
Say, you got to really watch it when you're selling premium to your 3-year-old.
Hey, Bank of America, 15 cents. There you go.
Hey-o.
Come back.
Hey, if Buffett can get that premium, why not you, right?
I can't wait for 5 years from now. Grigas is on CNBC talking about his investment portfolio, and he's begging people to buy Bank of America so that his kids can go to college.
At least get it off the bulletin boards, please. Help me out.
Wouldn't be the first time that's happened there on good old CNBC. Talking up your holding? What craziness? On CNBC.
Let's look back at some of the Grigas comments. Oh, I hate Apple. Sell it at $500. It's up $90 in 17 trading days here. It's ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. G. And now we're going to dive right into the old listener mailbag.
Now it's time to empty the mailbag and see what our listeners have to say. It's the mail block.
All right, and this is indeed the listener mail block where you guys get to take control of the show and let us know your thoughts and opinions and comments and your issues with Mark Sebastian's many uncomfortable 80s references and all the other things you like to write in about for us here on the show. And we're going to kick things off with a forum post from the Options Insider. This was posted by Sean Conrad, and he was writing about low vol month and strike selection. And he writes, "Hi, Option Block gang. With Apple vol being quite low, I'm looking at what sorts of trades might keep me vol positive and long directional beyond being a simple call purchase. I'm thinking call back spread. Am I nuts or does this make sense? If I'm on the right track, could you share how you might go about selecting the right term and strikes? I'm thinking to keep this out to about October to give it time to work directionally for the big win and maybe capture potential gains as it runs up into the iPhone 5 announcement. Looking at the opening this morning, I may have missed the boat on that one though. Wow. Your thoughts?" Well, Sean, that's a good question. Too bad Uncle Mike isn't here. He's the devotee of back spreads among us here. We should probably clarify for some of our listeners who are not sure what he's talking about. We talk a lot about ratios on this show.
Yeah, and the one thing is Apple already made its big move off the bottom.
That's what he was alluding to too, yeah.
Yeah, if you're bullish, I would be looking at like a butterfly.
Yeah,
I think that's
good old iron fly, baby. You can't go wrong.
Well, on a call, you're actually probably better off with a call fly if you're going north, because you'll be able to tighten the you get tighter markets. That's probably the direction I'd be heading. But because I think you missed the boat on at least the beginning of the vol move. If you want to play vol going up further, you're probably better off buying a straddle in some sort of October play.
Yeah, he alludes to that even in his article or his post here, that he might have already missed the boat. And it certainly seems like there has been quite the aggressive run up. Apple up almost 3% today, 17 handles to 665, as we alluded to earlier in the show. So indeed, you might have missed your pop on that one, Sean. And in general, I agree with Mark. I'm much more of a fan of things like the iron fly or things like that versus a back spread. I've never been a huge back spreader, I think, for a number of different reasons. I know guys like Tusal love them. We should probably just clarify, like I was doing before, what a back spread is. People always write into us. We love talking about ratios on this show. Most of our ratios lean towards the dark side because a lot of our listeners are premium sellers and they want to be net short premium, or they're looking to reduce their overall premium exposure. A back spread is actually kind of the opposite, where you have more longs than you do shorts in your ratio. And so you ended up being a net premium outlay on this type of trade. So we don't typically discuss them that much on this show because not a lot of us really trade them that aggressively. A lot of our listeners write in about them. But it's an interesting, I think you had an interesting idea there, Sean, in rolling it out to October. But yeah, I definitely think I would go more along the lines of the old call iron fly to this type of back spread. Like I said, I've never been a huge back spread guy. Maybe we'll have Uncle Mike on later this week, and he could debate that with me, the merits of back spreads versus other types of directional long vol trades. I should also mention before we go here, Sean also wrote in about asking us if we're going to have an Options Insider app. And this is something that, we've been thinking about here for quite a while, and a lot of people have also written in with similar questions. I guess I'll just clarify it here really quick for you guys that, we've been thinking about this and planning it out. We're just in the process of a lot of other technical upgrades to the site right now. Once those are finished, hopefully within the next month or so, then we can start setting our sights on exactly what we'd want from a mobile application. Obviously, a strong focus of any Options Insider mobile app would be the radio, so we'll be offering radio functionality, and we're kind of debating internally what that functionality should be. So if you guys here on the show have any suggestions, by all means, let me know. If you listeners have any suggestions for what you'd like to see in an Options Insider mobile app, maybe easier ways to interact with us here on the show, being able to listen to a show, stream it, and post questions to us right away, that sort of thing. That's the stuff we're considering here on the show. So if you have ideas, by all means, let us know here, and we'll be happy to take that into consideration. And here's a last question here we have from Options Voodoo, and he writes about the alpha indexes. And he says, Options Block crew, in my endeavor to listen to all Options Insider Radio Network broadcasts ever released in podcast form. That's an ambitious goal, Mr.
That
Voodoo.
Is an ambitious
I wish
goal.
you a lot of luck. I think we calculated it the other day, and you have to sit down for at least a month to listen to all of our nonstop every day, every minute, to get all of the shows we've ever put out since we launched 5 years ago.
Wow, what an amazing amount of content.
That would be that's some serious Sebastian. You have to really want it. But yeah, so he said I came upon an interview that was done on the alpha indexes, and Mark, I'm sure you remember this, and John as well, when we had Paul on from NASDAQ talking about the alpha products last year. It was a great conversation. He writes, this was the first time I had heard of them, and I was wondering if you could go over any specific option strategies or spreads that are particularly nuanced as to how this product is constructed. And yeah, I think you just answered it for him right there, Mark. Your resounding sigh, I think, says it all.
I wish I could. They were such a neat idea.
They were fantastic. We gave Paul the shot.
The problem was you couldn't get a fill on the Philex if you wanted to trade them.
Forget working anything mid-market or even close to a bid offer spread. No one's going to fill you ever.
No, and that was the thing. I told Paul, I was like, I like the index, but the problem is I'm getting raped in and out, and I can't send this to my clients. If they're gonna get, the old girl with the dragon tattoo treatment by the Philex, and that was the case, and believe it or not, picking the wrong market maker killed the product. And
I forgot who was the market maker out in that product. If it was Philly, it's got to be Susquehanna, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And they just wouldn't put it. The problem was they wouldn't put on an electronic eye. I remember one case. I had a bid in, and it wouldn't fill. I took my bid out, and the offer was through my bid. So
fantastic.
These are guys that did
Welcome
not
to 1996 from an options perspective.
These guys did not want to trade it, is basically what I think it turned out to be.
Let's just give you an update here, Mr. Voodoo, on how these products are trading. Oh, actually, there was some volume in AVSPY today. There was there were 31 contracts. That's enormous. I've checked this one a lot lately, and there's been a lot of days of 0 contracts.
Yeah, so I give up.
Don't trade it. That's the moral of the story. It's too wide. You can't get in and out. You're trading yourself. You can't work anything unless you're hitting bids or lifting offers. And even, as Mark said, even sometimes then you're not even getting filled.
Yeah, make it yourself with SPY and Apple.
Yeah, I've talked to these guys at NASDAQ a number of times, including Tom Whitman, the guy who heads up NASDAQ OMX Philex, about this exact problem, how they have a great product here. They've let kind of languish on the vine. Last time I saw him was down at OIC a few months ago, and he implied that they're working on trying to get an underlying to go along with these options, and he thought that might help spur some actual volume because the market makers have nothing to hedge with. Well, I mean, they do. They can create it themselves, so I don't know how far that argument really goes, but that was his hope. If he creates an underlying apparently...
Oh, jeez. Yeah. And Susquehanna doesn't know how to dispersion trade at all.
Yeah, that I wasn't really too keen on that argument, but he thought that was what's going to really send it back rocketing into the stratosphere. They're trying to get those products. The boys, the moral of the story is they dropped the ball in a number of ways, not just the market maker, but promotion, education, all these things that go along with launching a new product. You can't just build it and they will come. You have to actually put some effort and some muscle behind it. We saw that with the binary products at Amex a few years ago. If you just let them wither on the vine, that's exactly what's going to happen. That's what happened here as well. So there was a cacophony of errors that really kind of got together and just coalesced to kill this product. And unfortunately, that's the case. Options Voodoo. There's no real reason to trade them. Trade the options on the individual names instead, and you'll do far better. All right. Thank you, everyone who wrote in. If you guys want to join in, by all means, surf on over to theoptionsinsider.com. You can post in our forum. You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/options, or on Facebook, or any other number of ways you want to reach out to us, and we'll read them here on the show, just like our friends Sean and Mr. Voodoo. But that is going to do it for the old mailbag for this week, and now we're going to dive right into Around the Block.
Around the Block.
All right, and those car horns mean it's time for Around the Block. And at this day of super action, it's hard to really predict what else could happen after so much has already happened today. With everything closing unched, where could we possibly go from here? Perhaps we'll start with you, Mr. Grigas. What are you watching for the rest of the week here?
We got problems with the mute button, but other than that, we got some minutes coming up from the FOMC, I believe on the 22nd at 1 o'clock Central. Other than that, the economic releases this week are pretty light. On the computer sector, we got Dell reporting earnings tomorrow, Hewlett-Packard reporting earnings on Wednesday. Hopefully that'll give us some type of movement. Other than that, it's going to be a quiet week.
Good old Dell. I remember when there were guys literally having fist fights on the floor of the Seaboat to get places in the Dell pit. That's how hot it was. Things have changed a wee bit since those days. Dell closing today at $12.56 with earnings, coming out tomorrow after the close. Let's see how they're looking here. They're expecting about a little over $1 worth of movement here on that weekly straddle, so maybe a little bit of action. Probably not too much. I haven't really been following Dell of late, not exactly a high flyer, as every other name in the tech space is kind of eating into their hardware space. It's kind of really not looking that good for Dell. Mr. Grigas, Mr. Sebastian, what are you watching here going through the rest of this week?
It's just going to be, are we going to get any movement? If the answer is no, then, what's next? Vol is inexpensive. That doesn't mean it's cheap. So it can be tough to sell, but then again, every piece of evidence says that when vol is at its lowest is often when it's the best sale. So I'm going to be watching that, and I think we're going to be slow until we get the employment report on the 7th.
It might be in one of these scenarios where, like you said, it's uncomfortable to sell the vol here, but also we're in one of these very lackadaisical environments where vol just kind of withers and kind of dries away. And so if you have the courage and you position well enough, it could be a decent way to capture that discrepancy between realized and implied, at least until tomorrow when we're off 40% across the board compared to today's 0.0. Got to go somewhere from here, right? I don't know. Today was a fun one, but that is unfortunately going to do it for this episode of the Option Block. But before we go, I like to check in with all of my cohorts here on the old Option Block All-Star panel to see what they have going on in their respective endeavors. Kicking things off, the man from the pit, a.k.a. Mr. 80s reference himself.
That's
good
me.
Old Mark Sebastian. What is coming up in the land of big hair and high-top sneakers?
Well, all sorts of things. Well, we're, our class, our gold course, the word is out on how good it is. And, and so the class has been filling up pretty aggressively every month. The September class is almost completely full. I think we have one spot, and October is more than half full as well. So if your goal is to not wait 2 months to get your options education, then give me a call and we can get you into one of our classes ASAP.
Now, let me just clarify. Let me just clarify for our listeners. That's not a class on how to trade gold options. It's your gold level course, correct?
It's our gold level course.
Okay.
It's our kind of course for all. If you're interested in options and you want to learn about options, it's a college level course. It's less expensive than 3 credits, and you will learn top down everything you need to know about what is required to trade options, the strategies, and a lot of the underlying fundamentals. It's a course that we charge a pretty decent price, a pretty inexpensive price for. Our competitors charge $7,000 and provide $7,000 up to $20,000 and provide far less information.
And with your gold course, you get to spend some quality time with the rock lobster from Maine himself. And that is invaluable. You can't
4 months of me and Andrew.
Perhaps we shouldn't have let our listeners in on that little secret. That might hurt your sales. Thank you for that, Mark. And Mr. Grigas, what is coming up in the land of OX, sir?
Well, just our stable of award-winning, Academy Award-winning, some Oscars, the webinars that we offer that are free on the website. No need to spend $7,000 to $20,000 on other people's classes when we have them for free right on the website.
Exactly. Who would charge for such a thing?
Yeah. People are trying to take advantage of you, I guess, there. But we have the new Idea Hub that Alex was on this show a couple weeks ago. He is now doing a webinar free on the site. You can sign up for there, optionexpress.com. He'll take you through the different features of the Idea Hub. We also have a new one up there for people that are familiar and established in trading equity options that want to take that jump to trade futures options. It's a pretty good course. They are very similar yet very different in just minute ways, and it's a good webinar to get used to some of those changes that you're going to see coming up when you trade that different product. Our only live workshop that we have on the website is good old KC. That one is in the first week of September 8th. That's going to be held with Jim Ruzon, doing a platform over through Strategy Talk and et cetera.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. G. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about any of the topics we discussed on the show today, the unusual activity, the education, the trading alerts, the breaking news from the options world, or just about anything else we hit on the old program, then by all means surf on over to theoptionsinsider.com. You can, of course, listen to all of the other programs we have here on the Options Insider Radio Network. Check out our breaking news, click on the forums, maybe even participate in the show yourself like some of our listeners did today. But unfortunately, that is going to do it for this episode today. But all of us here on the old All-Star panel want to thank all of you out there in the listening audience for downloading and streaming and subscribing to this show and making it such a success. And we'll see you next time right here on the Option Block.
Become a part of the Option Block. Just visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/forum to post a question for the hosts. You can also submit questions to twitter.com/optionblock or leave a voicemail at 312-544-9356. Make it interesting and your question just might make it on the air. The Options Block is property of the Options Insider Incorporated. All rights reserved. The preceding program was a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/radio or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.